Whether you're stuck in traffic, hitting the gym, or just winding down, we're here to spill the hottest tea from your favorite Bravo shows. From the wildest reunions to the quietest social media unfollows, we cover it all. So welcome back to Reality TV Podcast and Clips. Subscribe if you haven't yet. Let's get into it on 3, 2, 1. We are diving into just an absolutely massive amount of material today. It feels like we're looking at this intersection of reality TV with, I don't know, local politics, global crises, and some really, really disturbing historical claims.
It's a lot, and I think the through line for all of it is this idea of control. You have these stars trying so hard to manage their image, their relationships, even their history.
And then reality just, it crashes through, whether it's a fan digging something up, a politician firing back, or, a family member starting a GoFundMe.
Exactly. The very transparency that made them famous becomes the thing that works against them. So let's start with maybe the loudest moment that kicked off the new year.
Oh, yeah. The very public clash between a certain host and a certain mayor.
Let's get into it.
Okay, so Andy Cohen is on CNN, as he is every year, for New Year's Eve live with Anderson Cooper. And even before he gets to his now famous rant, people are already talking.
They're always talking. But this time, it was laser focused on his face, his appearance. The social media commentary was immediate and honestly pretty brutal.
We saw one comment on Threads that really just summed it all up. It was, WTF did he do to his face? Is he trying to find a new husband at Mar-a-Lago?
Wow. So in one sentence, you have aesthetic judgment, speculation on his love life, and a political jab.
All of it. It's just,
Yeah.
It's the perfect storm of online critique. But Andy, to his credit, he doesn't really let that stuff linger. He jumped on it pretty fast.
He did. He replied directly and sort of broke it down for everyone. He didn't deny doing anything, which I think is key.
Right. He said he'd done the smallest amount of Botox.
Yeah.
He was very specific about that.
He also pointed out he'd lost 20 pounds, which, I mean, that will change your face. And that he was wearing a ton of TV makeup.
All of which makes total sense. But it's fascinating that he even has to provide that breakdown, like an itemized list of why his face looks the way it does.
Well, that's the world he operates in. And we know it wasn't the only recent change. He'd also gotten new teeth before the RHOSLC reunion, so he's clearly very conscious of his on-camera look.
But at least one person was a fan. You mentioned his mom, Evelyn. Loved the broadcast.
That's sweet. But his mom's approval wasn't really the story here, was it?
Not at all. Because while people were dissecting his Botox, he was gearing up for a full-on political takedown.
Right. Live from Times Square with Anderson Cooper and BJ Novak kind of looking on, he just unleashes on the mayor of New York City, Eric Adams.
It wasn't just like a vague complaint either. He called his term chaotic. Horrible.
And then told him to go off in the sunset. I mean, that is a direct public firing from a celebrity on a massive platform.
He also said something about how the city would have to fiddle with what you left us with. Just this implication that Adams completely wrecked the place.
You could almost see Anderson Cooper trying to gently rein him in, and BJ Novak just looked sort of stunned.
And then Andy tries to do that thing he does where he walks it back with sarcasm. He tries to give him a compliment.
Right, about the rat population. He says, oh, well, he put a dent in the rat population.
But he couldn't even leave it there. He had to add the final twist to the knife.
Isn't that a metaphor of sorts?
Oof. Yeah. Basically saying you got rid of some rats, but maybe you are the rat.
It was an incredible television moment. But, politicians don't just sit there and take that. The response from Mayor Adams was immediate and personal.
He went straight for the jugular. He didn't debate the policy points Andy made. He went after Andy's character.
On X, he calls it another sloppy, drunken rant. And then he drops the acronym AA.
Which is, that's a huge line to cross. He's publicly suggesting Andy Cohen has a drinking problem and needs Alcoholics Anonymous.
It's an unbelievably aggressive tactic. He's trying to completely discredit the messenger. He says Andy should get help and that New Yorkers are concerned about him.
It's such a political move. He's flipping the script to make Andy the problem, not his administration.
And the final line of his post was just the perfect cutting sign-off.
He was safe in Times Square because we did our job again.
It's just dripping with condescension. It's like, you get to stand on my street and insult me because my police are keeping you safe, you ungrateful clown.
And he even doubled down later, right? He posted again.
He did. Seek help. AAA. Andy's Alcohol Anonymous. He wanted to make sure nobody missed the point.
So what this whole mess really shows is that when you're a media figure and you step into that political arena, you have to be ready for your entire public history, your perceived weaknesses, to be used as a weapon against you.
100%. The rules of engagement are totally different, which actually leads us perfectly into our next topic.
Yeah.
The high cost of privacy.
Yes, and the weaponization of a star's own history against them. Let's talk about Erika Jayne.
So Erika is finally in a new relationship after the absolute public implosion of her marriage to Tom Girardi.
Right. She's dating a man named John McPhee. They met in London. And she is being extremely, extremely protective of this relationship.
As you probably would be. She's been very clear in interviews about why she's keeping it so private. She said she knows how bad these things are for your relationships, meaning the show.
She said she's gone through too much and wants to keep this one thing special, which, I mean, that's completely understandable.
Of course. And she's painting this picture of him being the total opposite of her old life. She says he's never even seen the show.
That's a huge detail.
It's everything. It means he's coming in with a clean slate, no preconceived notions from years of television.
She also said he makes her feel calm and peaceful. It sounds like she's really trying to build a sanctuary for herself after years of chaos.
She is. She's building a fortress. The problem is her professional life requires her to tear down everyone else's fortresses.
And that is the exact issue. This new demand for privacy is in such stark contrast to her behavior at the season 14 reunion.
Specifically towards Garcelle Beauvais and Sutton Strack.
I remember this so clearly. Andy brought up that Erika wanted more from them, and she just went for it. She demanded the juicy scoop.
She turned to Garcelle and basically said, "Who are you dating? Give us the details."
And Garcelle was, famously private about her love life. She tried to be coy, and Erika just wasn't having it.
No. She delivered that line, "I wish you were more interesting, I guess."
Which is so brutal. She was basically saying, you're not giving us the drama we need for the show to work. You're not pulling your weight.
She even brought up how she and Kyle went through these horrific public divorces and humiliations. The implication was, we paid our dues, now it's your turn.
So you can see why the fans immediately jumped on this. The word hypocrisy was everywhere.
How can you demand Garcelle put her entire dating life on blast for public consumption and then turn around and say your new boyfriend is off limits because you want it to be special?
It's the central conflict of being a reality star, isn't it? You want privacy, but your job is to invade it.
It is. But what's interesting is that the fan reaction wasn't a total monolith. Some people actually came to Erika's defense.
Really? What was their argument?
The argument was essentially that she's earned it, that she overshared her whole life, it was all on display for years, and it led to this catastrophic outcome.
So the idea is that she paid such a high price for her transparency that she's now bought back her right to privacy.
Exactly, that the audience saw the carnage and should now grant her sort of emotional amnesty. It's a really complex debate about the unwritten rules of reality TV.
It is. And speaking of financial carnage and desperate public appeals, we have to talk about what's happening with Denise Richards and Aaron Vipers.
This story is just, it's unbelievable. So the context is vital here. Denise has filed for divorce from Aaron. She's accused him of abuse.
And she has a temporary restraining order against him. That's a serious legal step. It's not something a judge grants lightly.
Not at all. And in the middle of all this, Aaron's mother, Patricia Vipers, launches a GoFundMe.
For $110,000.
An incredible amount of money. And the title is Pure Emotional Theater. Please help my son Aaron, a grandmother begging for justice.
She's not just asking for money for lawyers. She's crafting a public narrative to counter everything Denise is claiming in court.
She paints this picture of her son being completely destroyed by false allegations, Hollywood power. She says he has no income, no home, no ability to fight back.
It's the classic, powerful Hollywood star destroying the little guy narrative. It's designed to get public sympathy on their side.
And she adds these really specific, almost shocking details about her own sacrifices.
The animals, right. 36 dogs and 5 cats.
Yes. She claims she spent her small pension on vet bills and food for all these animals. It's meant to show her as this selfless, struggling figure.
But the part that really felt like it crossed the line was bringing Denise's daughter, Eloise, into it.
Absolutely. So Aaron was in the process of adopting Eloise, but it was never finalized. And his mother claims Eloise was torn from our lives.
She even says she cared for Eloise for weeks while her daughter-in-law traveled. She's positioning herself as the stable, loving grandmother whose grandchild was ripped away by this famous absentee mother.
It is a devastatingly effective, if cynical, play for public sympathy. It weaponizes a special needs child in a public fundraising campaign.
So how did Denise respond to this public relations assault?
Well, she didn't mention the GoFundMe by name, but she posted something on Instagram that seemed like a very, very direct response.
It was a quote about manipulation, wasn't it?
Yes, it said, "Narcissists are masters of manipulation."
And it went on. Something about how they play the poor, abused victim while launching a mass smear campaign.
Given the timing, there's almost no other way to interpret that. She's basically saying this whole GoFundMe is a calculated, narcissistic smear campaign designed to make him look like a victim while he's the one facing abuse allegations.
So you have a legal battle in court and a narrative battle playing out on GoFundMe and Instagram. It's modern celebrity divorce.
It's unbelievably messy. And speaking of messy, we have to go to Salt Lake City,
where the drama has just escalated into some truly dark and serious territory. Let's start with the latest from Monica Garcia.
So Monica is off the show now, but she's still dropping bombs on social media. She posted a story that made a very specific, very serious allegation about one of the current cast members.
She was trying to defend Meredith Marks, who always gets accused of being drunk or on something.
Right. So Monica posts this text overlay saying, essentially, everyone goes after Meredith, but she wasn't the one taken away in an ambulance to the ER for alcohol poisoning.
She added so much detail that the cast was locked in their rooms while she got wheeled to get her stomach pumped.
And then she puts allegedly at the end. It's the classic reality TV move. Make a hugely damaging claim and then add allegedly to cover yourself.
But that level of detail was enough. The fans immediately went into detective mode.
And they resurfaced a specific clip from season 4 from the cast trip to the Trixie Motel. And a lot of them think it's the smoking gun pointing directly at Heather Gay.
Okay, let's walk through that scene. It's the morning after a big night of drinking. Mary Cosby asks Heather if she's okay.
And Monica, who is right there, says she's very sick and that she couldn't stand up.
Heather is clearly distressed.
Yeah.
She just keeps telling everyone to go away. No, just go. God damn it.
But the really damning part is in the van on the way out. Heather is with Whitney Rose.
And she's still mic'd. You hear her say, "I'm going to throw up." And then you hear, you hear the sounds of someone getting violently ill.
And you see it. You see liquid falling into a shoe in the van. It's a really raw, ugly moment.
So fans are connecting that visceral scene to Monica's claim about an ER visit and a stomach pump. They're also connecting it to old rumors about Heather, like peeing in her seat.
It's a perfect example of how nothing on these shows is ever forgotten. An old clip can be recontextualized by a new allegation years later.
But this is nothing compared to the other major controversy brewing in Salt Lake City.
No. We have to talk about the allegations surrounding Mary Cosby's church. And this isn't just a rumor. This is from a full TLC documentary called The Cult of the Real Housewife.
3 episodes. A deep dive investigation with interviews with her family members and former church members.
And the claims they make are incredibly serious. Yet Mary's only public response to this entire documentary was a single Instagram post.
Don't believe the lies. Happy Sunday.
That's it. A blanket denial against hours of testimony.
So what were some of the claims in the documentary?
Well, there were claims of misconduct, like Mary allegedly having an affair with a church member. People said she often compares herself to God from the pulpit and shames anyone who questions her.
But the most disturbing parts were about her husband, Robert C. Cosby Sr., and these so-called brotherhood training sessions for young boys.
Her own cousin, Dan Cosby, and her uncle, Sam Kelly, spoke about these. They described them as mandatory sessions that involved alleged physical abuse disguised as discipline.
They mentioned being forced to do push-ups for hours, running around the church, being kept awake all day.
Sam Kelly recalled being made to hold heavy books out with his arms in a T-shape until he collapsed, and running in place for extreme lengths of time.
But the detail that was just horrifying was about the pin.
Yeah. Dan Cosby got very emotional recalling this. He alleged that the elders would place a pin under the boys' knees, so if they got tired and their knees buckled, the pin would stab them.
It's a mechanism of torture. It's designed to enforce compliance through pain and fear.
He also remembered an elder kicking a child who couldn't do a sit-up. These are consistent, detailed stories of alleged systematic abuse from multiple family members.
This goes so far beyond typical housewives drama.
It does.
Yeah.
And the documentary also brought back a moment from the show itself. An ex-congregant, Michael Enoch, talked about Mary's on-air comment about his daughter's fatal car accident.
She said something flippant about wearing a seatbelt, right?
Yes. And he called it an attack and said it showed she was a miserable human being. He pointed out that she, as his pastor, never even called to offer condolences.
This documentary just shines a light on Decades of alleged institutional problems that were hidden until the Bravo spotlight made her famous. It's incredibly dark.
It is. So let's try to pivot to something a little lighter, though still a masterclass in chaos.
Let's go to Potomac and the Colorado trip from hell.
Organized, if you can call it that, by Angel Massey. The core issue was the accommodations. It was just a logistical nightmare.
The cast was basically unanimous.
Yeah.
They were confused, they were frustrated, they were split up into different houses miles apart.
Ashley Darby summed it up perfectly.
Oh.
It's like, 2 of y'all over here, 20 of y'all over here, like, what?
Monique Samuel said it put a sour taste in her mouth from the very beginning because nobody told them they'd be separated.
And Giselle Bryant was, of course, the most blatant. She said the main house was an hour and a half away from Angel's own house on some godforsaken hill.
The whole point of a cast trip is to force everyone together. This did the exact opposite. Wendy Asafo was like, if we're here to see your acres, where the hell is your house?
Even Tia Glover, who seems to try and stay out of it, admitted she had no idea they weren't all staying together.
So what was Angel's explanation for this mess?
Well, her story is that the trip was never meant to be what it became. Her original vision was for a couple's getaway.
Right, she mentioned Kiarna and her husband and Tia and her husband.
Exactly. The idea was very thematic. The guys would go fishing, the women would go horseback riding. She said she wanted a romantic setting where the ladies would soften in the presence of their men.
But that's not what happened.
No, because some of the ladies didn't have a +1 to bring. So it turned from an intimate couples trip into a big group trip.
And her excuse for the bad housing was that it was high season in Colorado and all the big houses were already booked.
Which may be true, but it doesn't really explain the strange distribution of who stayed where. And that's where she said the quiet part out loud.
She said she decided who would get to stay in her own house.
Based off of my comfortability.
And there it is. That one phrase tells you everything. This wasn't about the show or the group or filming. It was about Angel's personal comfort.
She was prioritizing who she felt comfortable being around over the needs of the production and the cast experience.
Which led Ashley Darby to her very logical conclusion.
The unwanted guest theory. Ashley just cut right through it. Sis, if you didn't want us to come, you should have said that.
She basically called her out, saying the logistical mess was just a passive-aggressive way to keep certain people at arm's length.
And it completely undermined the entire trip before it even began. It was a failure of hosting 101.
Okay, for our last segment, let's look at 2 final examples of external forces just completely derailing a reality star's life.
From global politics to messy, messy divorces, let's start with Melissa Gorga.
So Melissa and her family are on a lovely vacation in Aruba for New Year's, and then they get stuck. Their flight home is canceled.
And this wasn't just a maintenance issue or a weather delay. The reason their flight was canceled was huge.
It was a major geopolitical event. The U.S. had just launched an attack in Venezuela and captured the former president, Nicolas Maduro.
Right, and because of that, the airspace near Aruba was completely shut down. So they were literally stranded by an active international conflict.
Now, Melissa does what anyone would do. She goes on Threads and complains to the airline, WTF is going on, stranded, no rebooking options.
Just typical traveler frustration. But the fan reaction was anything but typical. It was immediate and it was vicious.
They didn't sympathize with her. They attacked her. The comments immediately tied her being stranded to her presumed political beliefs.
We saw so many comments like, you voted for this.
People were wishing karma on her. They called her out for her entitlement, complaining about being stranded in a luxury resort in Aruba.
It's this fascinating and brutal reality for these stars. Their personal inconvenience is instantly framed as a political consequence. There's no room for just being a frustrated customer.
And they even brought her spending into it. Someone mocked her for maybe regretting buying her daughter Antonia that huge Christmas haul.
The 114 gifts worth over 10 grand. It's like, you live this lavish lifestyle, you allegedly support these policies, so don't you dare complain when the consequences of those policies inconvenience your vacation.
It's an incredible example of how there are no boundaries anymore. Your vacation can become a political battlefield in an instant.
100%. And for our final story, we go to Miami, where Lisa Hochstein's new beginning has come to an end.
We have confirmation that she and her boyfriend of 3 years, Jody Glidden, have split up.
Jody actually confirmed it himself in an Instagram comment, which he later deleted. He was very gracious. He said, "We've gone our separate ways, but I still care about her deeply."
This is a big deal because Jody was supposed to be her stability. She started dating him right after Lenny filed for divorce and immediately shacked up with Katharina Nullock.
Jody was the anti-Lenny. He was her safe harbor from all that Star Island chaos and public humiliation.
But the chaos on Lenny's side just continues to spin. He and Katharina are done for good now.
And he's already moved on. He's dating a 25-year-old model named Elena Kovalenko.
And he moved her into the $52 million Star Island mansion with the kids.
Right. He claims the kids absolutely love her.
Now, Lisa's first public reaction to Elena was actually pretty positive, right?
Yeah.
On Watch What Happens Live.
It was. She was clearly shading Katharina. She said of Elena, anything's better than the last.
But that goodwill did not last very long once they were all living under the same roof, so to speak.
Not at all, because Lisa then filed an emergency motion against Lenny.
And what was she trying to do?
She was trying to legally prevent him from leaving their 2 young children alone with Elena.
An emergency motion is a big deal. You file that when you believe there's an immediate risk or issue that the court needs to address right away.
Exactly. So it shows that despite her trying to move on with Jody and even trying to be publicly okay with the new girlfriend, the reality of the situation forced her back into a defensive legal posture.
Her life is still completely dominated by the fallout of that divorce, and she's forced to litigate every aspect of her children's lives.
So when you pull back and look at all of this, Andy's rant, Erica's privacy, Mary's church, Lisa's legal battles, what's the big picture here?
I think it's this impossible fight between the narrative a star wants to create and the reality they can't control. Andy tries to control his image with a Botox explanation, but his own words on politics unleash a storm he can't manage.
Erica tries to build a wall around her new love life, but her own words from her reunion are used to tear it down brick by brick. Angel tries to script a comfortable trip, and the reality of the uncomfortable housing reveals the truth of the cast dynamics.
And then there's Melissa finding out her tropical paradise isn't safe from geopolitics, or Mary Cosby finding out that a simple denial on Instagram is no match for a 3-part documentary.
The ultimate lesson is what we saw with that Heather Gay clip. The past is never gone. It's just archived, waiting for a new reason to be brought into the light. No matter how much comfortability you try to engineer for yourself now, your history is always there, ready to be re-examined.
And that tension is really the engine of all these shows. So for you, listening at home, here's the final thought we want to leave you with.
When a star's personal life, their politics, their finances, all of it becomes part of the public spectacle, how much of their own story do they actually own anymore? And how quickly does the audience shift from just being a fan to becoming a full-blown investigator?